So this is Fake Bajan video podcast number 2, and this my name is Jonathan Braffett, and I am an attorney at law in Barbados. And the reason for this podcast is because, as an attorney at law, I meet many people in passing. I tend to work with people who are not Barbadian citizens. And what I've come to realize over the time is that there's a lot of information and things that I do, like a lot of other lawyers, that can benefit the Barbadian public or various other people. I find sometimes that when I am having conversations with other people, that sometimes you run out of time. You can't stop and finish as long as you like. So I decided to create a set of videos outlining things to other Bajans, about things from international business that they can use for their lives, for their family, for their business. And then when I don't have time in future, I can easily point people to videos. I can share videos with them because we're gonna put all this on, all the social media platforms, and so we'll be able to share the information with people. They could consume it as they like. This stuff, and the reason why I call it fake Bajan, it's got nothing to do with my. I'm not mentioning the name of my law firm. I'm not selling anything. I am not. A lot of the things that I talk about, you can go talk to your own lawyers about. You do not have to come to me. You should listen to some of these things. You can go and research it on Chat GPT, and then you can go and talk to your own lawyers about it. You do not need to come to me. There are many great lawyers in Barbados who are very knowledgeable on these things. But sometimes, because lawyers are busy, they don't, they caught up in transactions and different things. They're very busy. They don't sometimes have time to, consult and really advise everyone about everything. So, this is just a general information for my Barbadian people, my Barbadian community. I want a special note again. I have to do this every video. My Bajans who are in the US, UK, Canada, you guys live in high tax countries, and some of the things I'm going to talk about, including setting up companies and trusts and other things in Barbados for the family, for business, is a little bit more complex. I will get around to producing videos specifically for you guys on these things. In the meantime, if you guys want to look into things like trusts, please you will need to speak to your US tax lawyer, your Canadian tax lawyer, your UK tax lawyer. You will need to speak to them, and in particular, you will need to speak to tax lawyers, because international trusts in these countries are relatively complex affairs. You need people that understand these things. So you can talk to your tax lawyers in these things. Remember, you don't. This is not about. You don't have to necessarily call me. You can call any tax lawyer that you're used to working with, and ask these questions and find out about these things that will help you and your family. So, today we're going to continue talking about trusts. And so, a trust is a legal entity. It is Barbadians who are Bajan citizens, people that live in Barbados can set up trusts. A trust is a legal entity. It is something which is backed up by law. It is backed up by the law that the government passes. In writing, statutory is what we call it. And trusts are also backed up by the law of equity, which is a set of principles which come from cases that have been decided by judges. There are a whole range of principles that judges enforce and recognize in law. Sometimes that can even not override, but the way they give effect to statute is very much dealt with by these laws, these principles, and it's called the law of equity. So the trust is something that comes out of the law of equity. And a trust is exactly what it sounds like. It's an entity that has a trustee. A trustee has to always act in the best interest of the beneficiaries, and the person that sets up the trust is called the settlor, which would be, in a family situation, this might be the parents will set up a trust. And then either the parents or a good friend or something like a bank would be the trustee or a trust company. And the beneficiaries would be the parents themselves and or the children and anybody else that you wanted to include in the trust. And you can read the trust document. And the way a trust works is there is a document called the trust deed, and it's kind of like a contract, but it's not a contract. It's an agreement that gives effect to the type of trust that you have. So you can read the trust, you can understand it. There are many examples or templates available on the internet. You could pull down any of them, and even if you just look at it from a high level, just to understand it, just to see conceptually what it is. You don't have to understand everything, but at least you can see what it is, after you watch this video. The next thing I'll say about trust is you could compare it to a company. So the directors are the trustees. The beneficiaries would be like the shareholders. And the settlor is, is similar to the shareholders. Well, the settlor is a person that sets up the trust. That's like a person that sets up a company, right? So a family in Barbados, Bajans, you can set up a trust. A trust can protect you, the parents. It can protect your children. And these are some of the ways that it can protect your family. So when you set up a trust, the trustee has to always act in the best interest of whatever the trust is held in the trust. So say for instance, if you put your home in a trust, you can basically protect yourselves, you the parents, you can protect the children. Now, a trust is kind of like, as I said, in some ways it's like a company, but it's not a company because it's underpinned by the law of equity. And the law of equity has a number of principles that mean that the trustee always has to act in the best interests of the beneficiaries of the trust. And so the way you set up a trust is you would go to a lawyer and go through the trust deed. You would decide who the beneficiaries are, who the trustee is going to be. You will put other things that you want in the trust for the future, the way you want things to happen. And that is how you would basically set up a trust, by working out all these things, writing them down, and your lawyer basically will put it in legal language that you can understand. A trust doesn't have to be written in legalese. Many trusts today are written in straightforward English that basically anyone who understands and can read English should be able to understand. A big thing about trusts is that they are an alternative to wills. They are alternative to wills. It's better than a will. It's better than going through probate, because with a trust, if anything happens to a person, you don't have to go through probate. And the reason for this is when you put the assets, your home in a trust, say for instance, and any other assets that you own, and you name a beneficiary, if something happens to the settlor, the person that set up the trust, or one of the other beneficiaries, when that person dies, or if that person was to become ill, the trust will continue to work. There's no need to go to the courts. There's no need to get involved in probate and trigger all of those expenses, all of that uncertainty, going through the court process, which I know in a lot of cases takes a lot of time. Also, because the trust has been set up beforehand, the family knows exactly where everything stands, all of those who are beneficiaries to the trust. So in the next video, I'm going to break down some more things about how to set up and operate trust. Thanks for now. Cheers.